Well, Genshin Impact finally showed off the new 5-star Geo Sword character, Xilonen, which I'm probably pronouncing wrong and I frankly don't care. If you ever thought that the movement abilities and climbing in particular was bad in Genshin, well don't worry, because this is a pay-to-win way to make it better. While you'll be able to prepare for most of her materials, she is going to require a new boss fight that's going to come with version 5.1. Here's her Ascension card, and here are the banners that are coming with the update. So before we get started with her special abilities, Xilonen does have some normal abilities that we need to talk about, like her base attack. In particular, her plunging attack is going to be based off of her defense. And she also has Night Soul's Blessing Blade Roller. So when in the Night Soul Blessing state, Xilonen will enter the Blade Roller mode. While in this mode, Xilonen's normal attacks will allow her to perform up to 4 kicks using her rollerblades, and she will be unable to use charged attacks. When she uses normal and plunging attacks in this mode, they will switch to being based off of her defense, and she will deal Night Soul aligned geo damage that cannot be overridden. Now her elemental skill, which, oh man, this is a doozy. Xilonen switches to high speed combat blading gear and rushes forward a certain distance before dealing Night Soul aligned geo damage based on her defense. After using this, she will gain 45 Night Soul points and enter the Night Soul Blessing state. In this state, she will shift to the Blade Roller mode. Source samples. Xilonen has 3 samplers with her that can generate different soundscapes based on other party members' elemental types, decreasing nearby opponents' corresponding elemental resistance while active. The initial recorded source sample within each sampler will be Geo, and for each party member who is Pyro, Hydro, Cryo, and Electro, 1 Geo sampler will change to that corresponding element. Basically, these 3 dots that are on her HUD, the elements are going to change based on your party members. While Xilonen is in the Night Soul Blessing state, the Geo Source sample that she carries will always be active. After unlocking her passive talent, which we'll talk about later, she can trigger the passive talent's effect to regenerate Night Soul points for herself. When her Night Soul points hit the maximum, she will consume them all and activate the 3 source samples she has on hand for 15 seconds. When the source samples are active, nearby opponents' corresponding elemental resistance will decrease to those elements. Source sample effects of the same element cannot stack, and she can trigger these effects even when off the field. Now, as for the Night Soul Blessing state with her elemental skill, continuously consume Night Soul points. When these points are depleted, or if used again, this Night Soul's Blessing state will end. This state has the following traits: switches to rollerblade mode and increases Xilonen's movement speed and climbing speed, and she can perform high-speed leaps in Ocelot form while climbing. Her Night Soul Blessing has the following restrictions, however. When in this state, her Night Soul points have a 9-second time limit. After this limit passes, her Night Soul points will immediately expire. After Xilonen's Night Soul points have expired, while she is in the Night Soul Blessing state, she will no longer be able to generate Night Soul Blessing points via the passive talent that we'll talk about in a moment. Okay, now for her ultimate ability. It activates the Phlogiston Stereo DJ Controller Portable at full power. Good God. It'll deal Night Soul aligned area of effect geo damage based on her defense. Additionally, she will trigger the following effects based on her different source samples. If she has at least 2 source samples that have had their element types changed, she will play an ebullient rhythm, healing nearby active party members at intervals based on her defense. And if she has fewer than 2 source samples with different element changes, she will start up an ardent rhythm, which will play 2 additional beats that deal Night Soul aligned area of effect geo damage based on her defense. Now for her passive talents. Triggering Night Soul Transmission restores 15 Phlogiston, basically the stamina system in that land, and Blessing of Forged Fire. After her Night Soul points have fully depleted, Xilonen will switch to consuming Phlogiston to maintain her Night Soul Blessing. While in an area with Phlogiston mechanics within Natlan, she can use Night Soul Transmission. When the active character is currently sprinting, climbing, in a movement mode caused by certain talents, or at a certain height in the air, the following will trigger when switching to Xilonen. She will enter the Night Soul Blessing state and gain 20 Night Soul points, and in this situation, Xilonen's Night Soul points have a 4-second time limit, after which her Night Soul points will immediately expire. After she uses her elemental skill within this time limit, her Night Soul point time limit will be extended by 9 seconds. Night Soul Transmission can be triggered once every 10 seconds by your own team. Additionally, while in Natlan, Xilonen will not consume stamina when climbing while in the Night Soul Blessing state. Her next passive, while in the Night Soul Blessing state, if she has at least 2 source samples that have had their elements changed, she gains 35 Night Soul points when her normal or plunging attacks hit opponents. It can be triggered once every 0.1 seconds. And if she has fewer than 2 source samples of different elemental types, her normal and plunging attacks deal 30% increased damage. And then Portable Armored Sheath, while in Night Soul Blessing state, when Xilonen's Night Soul points reach the maximum, she will trigger an effect equal to that of her Night Soul Burst. This effect can be triggered once every 14 seconds, and additionally, when nearby party members trigger a Night Soul Burst, Xilonen's defense is increased by 20% for 15 seconds. Moving on to her constellations. Her C1. Xilonen's Night Soul points and phlogiston consumption in her Night Soul Blessing state is decreased by 30%, and her Night Soul point time limit is extended by 45%. Additionally, when she has source samples that are active, she can also increase nearby active characters' interruption resistance. For C2, Xilonen's Geo source sample will always remain active. Additionally, when her source samples activate, all nearby party members will gain effects corresponding to the active source sample that matches their elemental type. Geode will increase damage by 50%, while Pyro will increase attack by 45%, Hydro increases max HP by 45%, Cryo increases crit damage by 60%, and Electro restores 25 energy and decreases elemental burst cooldown by 6 seconds. Her C3 increases her elemental skill by 3 levels. Her C4, after Xilonen uses her elemental skill, she will grant all nearby party members the Blooming Blessing effect for 15 seconds. Characters with Bloom Blessing deal 65% of Xilonen's defense as increased normal, charged, and plunging attack damage. This effect will be removed after 6 times or when the duration ends. When you hit more than one opponent, trigger counts will be consumed based on the number of opponents hit. The counts for each party member with Blooming Blessing are counted independently. Her C5 increases her ult by 3 levels, and her C6. When Xilonen is in the Night Soul Blessing state, when she sprints, leaps, or uses normal or plunging attacks, she will gain Impressionable Knight's Blessing, ignoring the limitations of her Night Soul Blessing state and increasing the damage dealt by her normal and plunging attacks for 5 seconds. During this time, her Night Soul Blessing time limit countdown will be paused, and her Night Soul points, phlogiston, and stamina will not decrease, and when her Night Soul points reach the maximum, her Night Soul Blessing state will not end either. Xilonen will deal 300% of her defense as increased normal and plunging attack damage while in the Night Soul Blessing state. She heals nearby party members for 120% of her defense every 1.5 seconds, and she can gain 1 Imperishable Knight's Blessing every 15 seconds. It's an interesting character because it seems like it's going to work with all sorts of elements as well as just a full Geo party, but I think a lot of people are going to be grabbing her just for the climbing. It's just a shame that it's not going to work very well outside of Natland.